Rhino, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Check.
Now, is that check with the C-H-E-K or the British spelling C-H-E-Q-U-E?
C-H-E-Q-U-E. That's check. That's a check. Isn't that a check for the...
That's a check like you're right to pay off your bills and stuff.
That's the proper...
We're talking about a check and checking into stuff.
Yeah. This is the one with the Q is the proper Canadian spelling too, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
It's the British spelling.
I can't remember the last time I wrote a check.
Yeah, me neither. Holy mackerel.
It's been so long. Everything's done online these days. So I can't even remember.
I think.
Well, the last time I even went to the bank to get anything was when we went and got a bank draft for the trailer when we bought it back in May.
Oh yeah, I haven't even asked you about that trailer. How do you like it?
I like it. We really like it a lot. It's much nicer being up off the ground and in a sort of proper bed to sleep in, and it's got the heater in there. You can fire it up and take the chill off the air and lights. And
is it used? Was it?
It was used. It's a 2017.
When we had a camping trailer years and years, and my dad had a camping trailer, it was a Lionel.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there was actually a line of camping trailers called Lionel.
Right, so they had two outside wheels and then the smaller wheel down the middle for pickup.
Yeah. No, it was like an actual. I'll never forget. Yeah, I haven't thought about it.
There's all sorts of. The first one we had was my dad bought in '65, and it was, I forget what it was, a camp rate or something, but it was nothing fancy. It was a basic box on wheels with a couple plywood shelves that pulled down, the canvas that folded up on it. I went to the East Coast, the West Coast, down through the States.
Yeah, we went everywhere in ours. Does anyone know whatever happened to the Lionel brand of tent trailers? That's what we called them. My dad has a 1979 Lionel M500, and I've been looking for more info to help get it fixed and sold and see if anyone else owned a Lionel. Lionel tent trailers, wow. I haven't thought about that in years.
Well, there you go. We digress.
We do. We're here because we're introducing episode 244, which features our Switzerland connection, Robin Felder.
Yes. Who used to work for the railway, now is in the police service.
That's right. He used to work for the railway, and we talk about that. And you're right. Now he's been 2 years in the police service, and I believe he even took a substantial cut in pay at first to get this job because he wanted to be a police officer, which is actually pretty cool when you think about it.
I remember when he was doing his training, he sent me a video of him getting tasered. He said, I didn't really like that part of the training. but he's also done some other neat stuff with helicopters and all sorts of stuff.
And there was the one where they were in the river doing stuff and all kinds of junk. Yeah, so very, very interesting. I forget how this all came about. One day, him and I were talking back and forth via Facebook Messenger, and then I said, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast?" He told me something really interesting, and I said, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast again?" I think maybe he sent me a picture of a locomotive he weathered or something.
Yeah, he does a nice job of weathering. He's always posting pictures of the weathering projects he's doing for people.
We talk about that quite a bit in this podcast. And he's a big fan of brass locomotives. And he made me aware of the fact there's a company called Division Point, which I guess has been around for a while, but they are now importing brand new brass locomotives. Which I said to him is an indication that the hobby is alive and well.
I remember back in the day, the brass was like, if you were buying brass, like you were buying the best there was. And, think of the Pacific Fast Mill stuff, United and over whoever else is making for Pacific Fast Mill. And then there was Van Hobbies in Canada getting stuff made by Sam Hongs out of Korea. And, gone. I had a few brass locos in the day. In fact, I still got two. I've got a CPR 280, which is kind of a basket case. It's bounced on the floor. And I've got a CPR D10 that needs to be rebuilt as well.
So I'm on the Division Point website now, and they got F units. The FA unit number 6691 is let me see what the price is. It's got, and this is a really well done website. It's got, you can choose the price you want. Like if you want to buy it in Hong Kong, it's 9,018, whatever the Hong Kong hen, I think it's called. SAR.
Right.
So it's $9,000 in Hong Kong. In Belgium, in euro dollars, it's 1,000 euro dollars, 1,037 euro dollars.
Right.
Let's see what it is in Australia. It's $1,700 in Australian dollars. I wonder if
which would be about the same in Canada.
Yeah, roughly. And the U.S. price is $1,140 U.S.
That's HO scale?
HO scale, brand new. This is a New Haven.
DCC ready or DCC equipped or?
Let's see. It does not say. Oh, wait a minute. DCC sound equipped with ESU Loc Sound 5, DCC 21-pin decoder, a Nix Trains buddy board, and a full range high performance speaker. All lighting is LED. This is a pre-order item for delivery in late 2024, early 2025.
Painted or unpainted?
Painted in New Haven.
Wow.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful model.
Bet it is.
I'm tempted to buy one myself, except I have absolutely no use for it, but that's never stopped me before.
Does that ever stop any model railroad from buying a model?
No.
Hey, I like that.
There's
wow.
Buy
that. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I've got a Rapido doodle.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
That's right. It is. This is on the free channel.
Oh, there we go.
I've been absolutely lousy at that. The other day we interviewed, which won't be on for a while, we interviewed John Farrington, who's a friend of Scott Lister's, the Scooter. I guess he's a friend of mine too. He's a corporate pilot.
Yes.
And really interesting guy. We did the whole interview, and we didn't talk about Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's HO, the fast track is Rapido.
Until the very end.
Yes.
So then I decided.
Then there's debate which channel is going to go on after that.
Yeah, then I think I've finally settled on we'll just put it on the Patreon channel. And then we'll get him back on again because he's a really interesting guy. I didn't think I did a very good job on that particular interview because I was kind of all over the place.
You know something? It was a great interview because we got to talk about planes and flying and what he's doing in his railroad. What think he'd like to do different. He talked about a smaller railroad he had before, which he said was either in model railroad planning or great model railroads. I forget which one. Which it was also written up in a book and layouts or spaces or something that.
Tom Klomoski's book.
Tom Klomoski's book. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know why I can't remember about, it's only been about a year and a half. It's been almost.
A lot can happen in a year and a half.
Well, yeah, but I should be able to remember that we got to feature our sponsor, Rapido Trains.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
There you go. All right.
You put a sticky note on your computer screen.
Yeah, but you know the problem I find with sticky notes is you put them up, and then you start putting up another one, then you put up another one, then you put up another one.
Then all of a sudden you need to get the bigger screen because you can't see for all the sticky notes.
Well, yeah, and you can't see any of the sticky notes because there's too many of them up there, and they don't mean anything to you. That's like me using a calendar on my phone. I sort of use it. But I'm not good at any of that stuff. I'm not good at anything, really.
Nah, you're good at a lot of stuff.
I'm going to try this again. Because I felt like it fell flat. I'm going to take it out of that particular podcast, whichever one it was in. So I was good when I was like 17. I was slightly above mediocre hockey player.
Right.
And but I was
you got some hockey trophies on the shelf in your basement.
Oh yeah, I got a few hockey trophies.
Oh, there you go.
And I was slightly above mediocre.
All right.
Okay.
So that'd be what, like marginally adequate, or
yeah, probably I was
somewhere between above mediocre and marginally adequate.
Yeah, exactly. And but the Leafs took notice of me and offered me $100,000 signing bonus.
Really, that'd be back in about the 70s or so?
1971, yeah.
Wow.
But my dad,
much?
$100,000 in 1971.
That's a lot of coin back in 71, boy. Man, you'd be eating lobster all the time with that.
But my dad couldn't come up with the money.
Oh, bummer, man. So there goes your career in the blue and white.
Yeah, exactly. It was a reverse signing bonus. I think that's hilariously funny. I forget where I heard it. Look at that. We've already killed 11 minutes and 30 seconds.
Beautiful.
All right, let's stop. Okay, can you take us into the interview?
Sure. Subway chimes, go.
Are you ready, Robin?
I am ready.
Because we are now live on the air. Just you and me, buddy.
All right, so just the two of us.
Just the two of us, because it's 8 o'clock where you are, 8 p.m. where you are, and 12 noon where I am.
It's actually 6 p.m. over here, just 6:15.
Oh, is that all? I thought you guys were 8 hours ahead of us.
And that's what I thought.
You're only 6 hours ahead of us.
It's only 6.
Okay. So Robin Felder, who lives in Switzerland and is an avid fan of the AML podcast. And we talked to you once before on the podcast. And then the other day you were showing me some cool photos of some locomotives. And I said, hey, you should come on the podcast again. And so we figured out the time difference. Apparently we didn't do a very good job. But
well, we tried our best.
Yeah, we did pretty good. Have you had dinner yet?
I have not. I was in home office today, and I am home alone because my girlfriend isn't here. But she will be here in a couple hours, I think.
Oh, okay. And you're not working today?
I was, but I am writing kind of a documentary which we have to do at the end of our 2-year school, which I'm conducting, and I'm just writing this documentary right now, and I was able to do that from home, so I had kind of a home office day today.
Oh, cool. So for everybody, to remind everybody, you were a locomotive engineer in Switzerland, right?
That's right, yes.
And and I remember everything's about an hour away or something, isn't it?
30 minutes.
30 minutes,
it's close to 30 minutes from where I live.
And then you decided to become a police officer.
That's right.
And that was how long ago now?
I think I sent in my CV like 2.5 years ago, something around that. And then I started school in October of 2022.
And why again did you decide that you wanted to change from being a locomotive engineer to a police officer?
So the main reason is that since my early childhood, I had two kind of dream jobs. One was a locomotive engineer, and the other one was to become a police officer. And after I had worked for 10 years, approximately 10 years for the railroad, I decided to try something new and do something else. And then I sent in my CV and tried to apply for the police academy, and they took me. So I had to leave the railroad and start my new job.
Okay, and you're just about completed the training, or you have completed the training?
I'm close to complete the training, so there are I think 4 months left now. But since around 8 to 9 months, we are working outside. So the first year was at the academy itself, and the second year is the internship, the practical year, where we work outside. In the teams, and that's the more interesting part. Even though the academy was great, it's more interesting to work out there in the town amidst the people.
Yeah, I'm assuming you work with another police officer, like somebody that's already a full-time police officer.
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a pretty cool system here in Lucerne. That's where I work. So we are 2 rookies and 1 sergeant together in a team, and then we go from mission to mission and from call to call, and we learn every day. And the more we can do by ourselves, the less we need our sergeant, so he can work more in the background and let us do our own stuff.
So do you feel like it's going pretty well? Like you're pretty happy with the decision you made?
I am 100% happy with the decision that I made. I had a great time at the railroad, but for me it was definitely time to do and start something else. And this new job is pretty different to what I did before. So every day is a new day, and every call is a different one. And I think we never had 2 days that were close to each other. So it's something new every day.
Yeah, I think that's probably this. I think that's the same for any police officer anywhere in the world, probably.
I would assume so, yes.
Any surprises? Like any like holy moly, I didn't expect that, or has it been pretty much the way they told you in the academy?
It's about 50-50. So it is like they told us at the academy, but then at the same time, it's something new every day, and all the people act different, and all the calls are different. So I think it's 90%. Holy moly, I didn't see that one coming. But at the same time, I have to remind myself, well, they told you about that at school, so maybe you should have listened better.
And you're still, and it does it still give you time to do your model railroading?
Yes, of course. So whenever I have a day or 2 off, I usually go to the layout room, and then I start some podcast, and usually I do some weathering or some modeling on my small little switching layout.
And how big is it?
So the switching layout is still the same size, because I didn't start the new modules that I will start, I think, at the end of this year. So it is 4 meters by half a meter. I think that comes down to around 13 feet by 2 feet, something around those lines.
Yeah, so that's pretty big, though.
Well, it is just a modular switching layout, so I cannot run in circles. I can only do some switching, but we already had our first meeting with the guys from my club or team, if you want to call it that way, and that was a great experience, and everything worked fine, and we are highly motivated to do more modules and to expand our layout network.
Yeah, so you guys have a club, like an actual group then. Like, fill us in a little bit again about that. Like, so because because this shelf layout that you built isn't built to be movable unless you actually move your home, right?
It is meant to be movable. It is planned and built to be movable. So the sections each section is 1 meter by half a meter, so 3 feet by 2 feet. That's each module, and I have 4 of them. And we are using the Fremo USA norms. So there are different Fremo norms. I think there is a European one or several different European ones. And we are using the North American Fremo standards. So that way we are able to build one big layout. We are not an actual club in that way. So each of us, we are a group of approximately 10 guys, I would say, 9 to 10 guys. And we are growing each year a little bit, but we are a loose group of people that are modeling. So each of us is modeling something different and something else. So we have guys that modeling Canadian stuff, and then there is me that models East Coast, Norfolk, Southern, and then we have a steam guy. But we decided to use these Fremo standards so that we can do 2 or 3 times a year one big show layout, so that we can run longer trains, and the rest of the year we are doing just some switching at home.
Right. And so have you taken the modules out on the road yet, or is this you're still just building them?
Now, we have actually had our first meeting at the end of last year. That's when we have a guy in our group that works partial time for the fire department, and he was able to get a room for us. So we were in a school on weekend. So there weren't any people there, and we could use the main conference room at that school building, and we set up our modules. So there are only 3 or 4 modules that are finished completely, but most of the modules can be used. So they are done. Just the scenery isn't finished. So you can use them to run trains, but they are not completely finished yet.
Right? Yeah. You guys can get together, put them all together, run your trains around, and all that.
Exactly. And so we had our first meeting, and most of the modules and the train network worked pretty good. We had some minor issues which we were able to solve right there. So we had a blast. So it was a fantastic day. We got pretty excited to run a bit longer trains and to do some switching movements and to see if everything works together. And it was a fun day, and we are highly motivated to keep up with our modular group and with our modules and the switching possibilities that we have when we have this bigger setup.
And how did you guys find each other?
Mostly that was by accident and with the help of the internet, I would say. So the first guy that so he's kind of the main boss of the group, if you want to call him that way. So he's the founder of our group. We don't really have a boss or a chief or something like that. We are a pretty loose group. But I met him at the last railroad convention, so the U.S. railroad convention in Germany. That was in 2019, I think, 2018 or 2019. I met him there because I noticed that he speaks Swiss German, and that layout convention was in Germany, so I noticed that he speaks a little different. And since I am Swiss as well, I asked him if he's from Switzerland, and we talked a little bit, and we exchanged some phone numbers and email addresses. And then in Switzerland, we had a little talk, and he knew 2 guys, and I knew 1 guy, and that's how our group came together, person by person and bit by bit.
Well, that's pretty cool, though, when you think about it like that. I mean, and of course, you mentioned you found each other halfway, partly because of the internet and partly because of the. So you said he speaks Swiss German. What is that?
So Swiss German is a little bit different than High German or the German that which they speak in Germany. Swiss German is something like a known language by itself, even though it has no grammar. So it is not an internationally acknowledged language in that way. So we don't have an official grammar book or something like that. But still, we speak our own language, and there are people in Germany that don't really understand us. Most of them. So it is different to the High German or the official German that maybe.
And do you find this probably sounds like a rude North American question, or it could be a rude English question? Do you find that a lot of people, like how many people speak English over there? Like your English is pretty darn good. And how did you learn English? Was that something you learned in school, or?
Well, I learned the basics at school. So I had 2 years of English it's not really like the high school in America, but sort of high school. So that was in 8th and 9th degree that I had some English lessons. That was only for the basics. But I think like about 80 to 90% of my English knowledge that I have is partially from podcasts, partially from YouTube, from movies, from series, from text, also from books, most of them railroad or modeling related books, but I have read others as well. And I think most of the English that I know and that I can use comes from all the movies and the podcasts and stuff like that.
Well, you speak very good English. I mean, and we're going to have to.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it too, because we're going to have to make this. I'm glad you stayed in contact, because we're going to have to make this a semi-regular event, so you can be our guy in Switzerland telling us what's going on, because you got a lot of cool pictures on your Facebook page, which we'll get to. But I would
love to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting how you guys have found each other and created. Now, you said you were at a North American Model Railroad Convention in 2019.
That's correct, yes.
And so how many people would have been there?
I would have to roughly estimate it, but I would say way over 1,000 because it lasted for 2 days. And it is not that far from the Swiss border to Germany. It was maybe 2 additional hours by car. So not 30 minutes. That one was a little bit far way out there. So we had to drive like 2 hours from the Swiss border up to Germany. And that was one of the most known US related convention that was out there. However, the organizing team there stopped working, I think, if that's correct. So there was a guy in Switzerland that decided to make some US conventions as well. So we have I think every 2 years we have a North American Railroad Convention now in Switzerland as well. It is smaller, of course. However, it is pretty cool.
Okay, now you've heard me say this 1,000 times on the podcast, so I'm going to ask you, like it sounds like the hobby's pretty vibrant in Europe. Or let's just concentrate on Switzerland and your area, the region that you're familiar with. But it sounds like it's pretty vibrant, the hobby.
I would agree to that, yes.
And do you feel like because of the internet, it's become more energy, easier to connect and easier to get stuff done and blah, blah, blah and all that?
I definitely think that the internet has a big impact on the hobby, and also on the products, on the how-tos and all the videos, all the techniques for weathering and modeling and doing DCC and all that. So I think the internet has a really big impact and a big part in the hobby as a whole. That's for sure, and also the possibility to, for example, I have made a North American railroading group for people in Switzerland, so that we have kind of a platform to get introduced to everybody. And I started bring all the guys together. I founded that group, I think, 5 years ago. And so everybody had that one friend who also is a little bit addicted to model railroading and maybe likes a big boy or an F unit or something like that. And then we came more and more people together. And sometimes we have meetings so not official meetings, but sometimes you meet a guy from that group that I grounded a couple of years ago for example, at the railroad convention somewhere, and then you have a little bit of a talk, or maybe you can exchange some information on recently announced products or something like that. So that's pretty cool.
And how do people? Does this group have some sort of a Facebook page or a page or something, or what?
It has, actually. So that's a group that I made on Facebook. It's US Modellbau in der Schweiz. That translates to US Model Railroading in Switzerland. I can send you the link to that.
Send me the link to that one too, yeah.
So there goes the link. So that's the group that I founded a couple of years ago with a friend of mine who is also modeling Norfolk Southern. He lives about 1.5, 2 hours from where I live now. So his name is Roger. He became a pretty good friend. In the meantime, it all started with a German modeling group, and I made a little post there. Hey, is there anybody from Switzerland? And a couple guys wrote me some messages, and they told me, yeah, I'm from Switzerland as well. And then that's where we met up in that German group, and then we decided to make a group for all the guys in Switzerland, so that we have a common platform where we can post some events and all that.
Okay, I just sent a request to join, so there you go. Oh, no, I got to answer questions. Uh-oh.
You can skip that. I'm the admin of the group, so you can skip that.
Okay, yeah, because I don't speak that language.
Yeah, I just made those questions to get all the spam guys out, you know.
Well, sure, yeah. There you go. I agree to the group rules. Cool. All right. So now, am I in? Let me see if I see pictures. Hang on here. Oh yeah, there's the pictures. Wow, look at that. So probably most of these guys are in the same boat as you are. They have modules that they work on, and then so it sounds like the group that you just talked about, the Swedish. I'm going to say that more than once, and I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm getting used to that.
What is you say Canadian, you say English, you say Swedish. What is it for Switzerland, or is it just Switzerland?
So the country itself is Switzerland, but for the group, I would call them the Swiss modelers or the
Okay,
Swiss guys.
Okay, like a Swiss Army knife and all that. Got it.
Exactly right.
The Swiss guys. Okay. So then I'm assuming all these guys, like you talk about your modular group, which is separate from your Facebook North American model railroaders in Switzerland. I'm assuming most of these guys have, shelf layouts and things like that they operate on it at home.
Well, there are differences. So maybe you noticed the top video where there is a BNSF unit with an intermodal train coming across a steel bridge. So that is a gentleman that has a beautiful Montana rail link layout. The scenery is absolutely amazing. It is one of the most iconic railroads, in my opinion, because it is local. It is here. He is not modeling in modules, so he has a fixed layout. He can move it, so it's coming up to segments, if I'm correct on that. However,
Right.
that might be wrong. But he is not modeling a modular layout, so he has a fixed layout. But all the guys from our modular modeling group are part of that group here on Facebook, but not all members are modeling in modules. I
Right.
hope I got that right.
You're
So
not-
we have people here with fixed layouts. We have people without any layout. We have just simply model railroad fans. We also have guys that have European layouts running American trains. We have all sorts of people. We started with 5 guys and we are now 105.
Wow. The hobby's growing like crazy. As far as I'm concerned, the hobby's growing like crazy.
I would agree to that.
Yeah, and it's because that people can connect and find each other. I don't care what anybody says.
Exactly, and not only that, I noticed that we have with quite some guys in the lower age categories, and I think that's not only is it is important, but it's a good sign that we have younger people coming together, connecting in the groups, on the meetings, on YouTube, and we are bringing these guys together, and I think that's a very positive thing in the hobby.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I talk about ad nauseum too, about how, when I was a kid, there was no way to connect with people other than a local model railroad club, and even then, you were lucky if they. Now I was lucky when I was 10 or 12 years old. My dad worked for IBM, and there was an IBM model railroad club, and we went in there, and there was a fellow named Pat Enright who was more than welcoming to me to have me be part of the club. And so I was very fortunate, but not everybody is that fortunate. And, that was how my model railroading career started. It wasn't that long until after my dad would drop me off on Sunday mornings to be at the club. And then about 3 weeks after, about the third or fourth time, he started hanging out at the club too, and before you know it, we were building a home layout. So
that's pretty cool. So when I was a little boy, we didn't have any sort of groups or teams or layouts or anything like that. I grew up in Hungary, so my family moved out to Hungary when I was half a year old, and model railroading wasn't that big of a thing in Eastern Europe at that time. So I think that might have been due to the fact that a lot of Western companies didn't move by that time to the Eastern countries, because the Berlin Wall just fell down like 2 years ago, so everything was new and fresh, and it needed a little bit of time to get all that companies move out to the eastern parts of Europe. So I was a little bit of a lone wolf modeler myself when I was small. But then in Switzerland, again, with Facebook and YouTube, we came together and we met more and more people. And that's where we are right now. And that's a pretty cool thing.
So how old were you when you moved to Switzerland?
I was at the age of 12 when we came back to Switzerland, back home.
Right. And
so yeah, I lived there for 12 years.
And how old are you now?
I am 32. I just had birthday 2 weeks ago.
Okay, and I forgot to get you a present.
Yeah, still waiting for that T-shirt.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the T-shirt thing. Do you belong? Are you listening to the Patreon channel?
Yes, sir.
Are you a $10 a month member or $5?
I think I am the lower category, because when I applied to the Patreon, that's just when I started the new job. and payment was a bit lower, so I think I have to adjust that to the higher ranking there.
Yeah, you adjust that, and all the money that you spent so far will go towards your T-shirts, and I'll send you a couple of T-shirts for that. That's how I keep track of it. And actually, I am actually catching up now on the T-shirt, and you'll be an international contestant in the "Hey, dude, where's my shirt?"
Yeah, I think I have to adjust my payment options there and become an official part of the "Hey, dude, where's my T-shirt?"
There you go. And before you know it, you'll have your T-shirts, and I'll send you an extra one just because you're our Swiss guy. I almost said
that's fantastic. I would love to have another one.
I almost said Swedish, but then and then I said Swiss.
Yeah, I just noticed that. That was at the edge, but still it worked.
That was very close, very close. So, okay, let's look. So then the reason we started talking, I mean, you've been sending me cool photos of your training, your officer training all along, which is very cool. And I've enjoyed those. But you sent me a couple of photos. So they're like on 3 days ago, you posted this long-awaited model is finally here. We lived in Hungary. It's this. What exactly is this blue one?
Yeah, I know what you mean. So that locomotive is that's a V43. It's called Silly. So that's kind of like the name, like I don't know, like the big blow gas turbine. They called it Silly, and that's an electric 4-axle locomotive from Hungary, actually. And that particular model is made by Pico, so that's Piko. That's a German manufacturer who also recently just delivered. I think they are already delivered to the shops now. The Krauss-Maffei hydraulic diesel locomotive from Southern Pacific. It's the same company. And Pico is well known to offer some Eastern European models. For example, they make several different Polish locomotives, beautiful models, and also Czech and Slovakian models, and also some models for Romania. And this V43 is from Hungary. And this locomotive is kind of like a childhood memory for me. It's the only European locomotive that I have. Because I used to ride this locomotive, or actually the locomotive with its train, to Budapest when we lived in Hungary. That was the kind of like the absolute standard locomotive for all passenger service and also for freight service. So it's a kind of like a childhood memory. And when Pico delivered this model, by the way, it's an absolutely fantastic model. It's beautifully detailed. They made an absolute fantastic job on that one. I just simply had to have one. I do not have overhanging catenary system on my modules, and I didn't plan to do them, but I simply had to have this locomotive.
That's like I bought a couple of RS U18s from our buddy Lauren James at OVR just because.
Because you can.
Yeah. Or my favorite story is last summer I was at the Illinois Railroad Museum, and they have a kind of they have one wall where people donate older stuff and they can sell it, or members bring in stuff and they can sell it. And there was 2 Stuart F units, undecorated. So these locomotives are easily, 40 years old, and they were only $25 each. And I forget who I was talking to about it, but I forget who I was talking to about it. I can remember, but I can't remember at the same time. And we were looking at them, and he said, "Well, if you don't buy them, I will." And it's like, I got absolutely no use for them, but they were $25 each, and they ran beautifully. And some stuff you just buy because.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's part of the hobby to enjoy the possibility to buy something, to enjoy something, maybe to just look at it or to weather it or to run it. And I will definitely weather this locomotive according to prototype pictures, which this time will be a little bit easier to get some pictures because it's a local model or a local unit in Hungary. It's still running today, so I can go over there maybe next summer, shoot some pictures, and then weather it accordingly. It's a little bit easier than all my Gevo and Dash 9 prototype pictures, which I have to get together from the internet.
What about the red locomotive that's there's a picture on your Facebook page? Is that yours too?
No, that is a Swiss company that made this model. It's also HO scale. I started weathering European models for customers this year. And so I just made a post in a Swiss modeling group with only Swiss trains, so no American stuff there. And I posted a picture of a European locomotive that I have weathered up a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden there were like 6 to 7 guys. Hey, can you weather this and that for me? I will send it to you, and I agreed to do that because it helps me with the current. So currently I am earning way less than I earned that when I worked for the railroad, because payment there was pretty good. And that way, doing these weathering jobs, it's partially I do it because it's fun and I love to do it, and also at the same time it helps me to support my own stuff, my own hobby, and my own orders and my own models and all that. So it's a win-win-win-win situation for everybody, and it became pretty much fun to weather all this European stuff. It's pretty cool.
And so I'm assuming some of these North American locomotives I'm looking at on your Facebook page, you've been weathering those as well.
Just a few of them. So most of the models that you see on my page are mine, except for all the plastic models. So there are a couple Arthur Genesis engines. Those I did for a customer as well. And then there is an Overland Gevo Norfolk Southern. That is my own one.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that too. You were buying brass locomotives, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. And also, if you allow, I would love to mention that Division Point, the American brass importing company, just recently made an announcement for modern brass locomotives again. And that's something that the brass community was waiting for since years. So when Overland stopped all imports of all the beautiful models that they imported before from Korea, I had several different emails sent out to a lot of different companies like Coachyard, Division Point, and when they existed, also Union Terminal imports as well. And so now Dennis Bartholow from Division Point is focusing on modern brass units. While Division Point itself still offers, of course, the old school steam engines like Southern Pacific and all that. I'm not really a pro when it comes to steam, but Dennis is offering modern stuff now. The first run will be EMD SD70 ACE models, and I just made a pre-order for some of those, and I can't wait to have them here.
Some. How many is some?
So actually, I pre-ordered 2 models so far, and maybe if I can sell some additional of my my Overland models, then maybe I will have the possibility to pre-order a 3rd one. But as of by now, I have pre-ordered 2.
Okay, 2 Norfolk Southern ones. Okay.
No, that was the original plan, but then Dennis made a pretty good decision. So they are offering the Ferromax, the Mexican paint scheme. And he's offering also the older paint scheme and the newer one. And when I saw that zebra scheme, I think it's called zebra scheme. However, don't count me on that. Maybe that's wrong. I think it's called zebra scheme. I just simply had to pre-order that one. It looks absolutely amazing.
Okay, so I'm looking at that page now, and he's got Norfolk Southern 1111. He's got a Union Pacific 8690. He's got Norfolk Southern 1225. Ferromex number 4096, for Ferromex 4029, Montana Rail Link on BNSF, another Union Pacific, BNSF, and these are all SD70 Aces. And,
yeah, that's correct.
And then he also has the F units that he's going to be doing.
Yes, so I think Jack is the gentleman that is focusing more on the older units. For example, the F units and the Steam SP units. And if I got that right, then Dennis is the one focusing more on the modern stuff. For example, the SD70s that are coming as a first run.
I think we should get these guys on the podcast, don't you?
Oh, I would love to hear that one. That would be fantastic. I had several emails sent to Dennis back and forth when he was planning the announcement of these modern locomotives, and I can't thank him enough that they are decided to offer some modern brass locomotives, because personally I think there is a market out there. It might be just different than it was, for example.
Well, that's the thing. Ago. That's what I don't think people understand. I think that's going to be one of your jobs as part of the podcast, is to pay attention to how the hobby's growing in Europe, because I don't think I truly don't think people understand how this hobby is growing. Because we got to talk to this guy, because for a company to start importing brass again is massive. That just shows you that the hobby is constantly growing, and it's a new renaissance for the hobby. I mean, you've heard me say this 1,000 times on the podcast. There's a tsunami of modelers coming that, long after I'm gone in 20 or 30 years, that people aren't going to recognize this hobby because it's going to have grown.
I agree to that. I absolutely agree with you. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at this. I mean, now starting to offer brand new brass diesel locomotives. I mean, that's been unheard of for 30 years, pretty much.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when Overland stopped working as a company. Maybe around 2012 to 2015. I came a little bit late to the party, so I don't remember correctly. But I think it was around, let's agree to 2015. Maybe that's wrong, but let's agree to that. So that was roughly about 10 years ago. And I think there is a market for brass. It's just different than it was before. Maybe companies have to work more with pre-orders, with some little payments in advance. Maybe not the whole model, but for example, 10% or 20% of a model. I don't know how that works. That's up to the companies. But I think there is a market for it if you're offering the right models, because I hope it's okay that we talk about Division Point. I didn't ask them, but it was a personal thing that I really wanted to use the chance to mention them here in your podcast, because I think they are offering something very cool, something that people on Facebook have asked for since years. And also one has to keep in mind that some specific Overland models that are 15 to 20 years old, the price on some of those models is skyrocketing. So there are guys selling, for example, the UP SD70 ACE is selling, if you have the specific number, maybe they are selling for around $1,400, $1,600 US. And when they were new, they costed around $750 to $800, I think.
Right. So the price is only going up.
If you were paying $1,600 for a 20-year-old model, then I think a completely new model with standard LED lighting, with easy lock sound on board, with all that fancy stuff that Division Point is offering right from beginning in their models, I think, yes, of course, it is a lot of money for such a model. That's a fact. We have to agree on that. However, it's a handmade piece of engineering. It's something very unique, and I think it's something very rare and something that people can enjoy. And that's why I think the pricing does justice to what it is and what you have.
Well, as far as the pricing goes, it's like anything in life. It's like, I bought a new driver for golf that cost me $500. Well, it's everything in life. It depends on what level you want to be at, and if you can afford this. I mean, the market, as you get into more expensive stuff, the market gets smaller, but the market is still there. And what we're seeing here is, if these guys are offering brand new brass locomotives, is the high end market is starting to expand and grow, because the whole hobby's growing. It's just,
yes, exactly.
It's really the prices of. It's like I say 1,000 times. You go to a Toronto Maple Leaf game, and if you go to a regular season game, it's going to cost you $400 by the time you have a couple of beers and leave. And I'm not even sitting in the best seats. And
exactly
for $400, you can buy one brand new Rapido Trains locomotive, and it'll last you for 20 years. Or 30.
You're fast track to model railroading fun.
Yeah, exactly. But that's
am I allowed to say that at all?
No, you can say you can.
So I thought I have to jump in.
No, you can say it, but it's not going to mean anything, because the only person, it's either Bruce or Kelly, and they're not here.
Yeah, I see. So it's something that designated people have to say.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I apologize, but there's rules.
Yeah, that's fine. That's okay.
There's rules that I just can't change.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I should have known that, actually. As a full-time listener, I should have known that.
Well, and as a police officer, as a local constabulary, you know what? You think of yourself as one of the official officers of the law of the AML network.
Oh, I like that one. That cries for a T-shirt. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I have to make a sign or something like that for my
There you go.
layout. I
Yeah, there
think
you go. Yeah.
maybe a little scene with the police officer and the police car,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
something like that.
Do you still have that Ford Interceptor that you were driving?
I do have, yes, sir. Still love it every day. That car is just, oh my God, I love that car.
How cool is this, though, eh? Because of the world's new technology, you and I are talking. The audio is great. We're talking, we're just having a conversation. You're telling me about Division Point that I didn't even realize. So now I'm going to have to get a hold of these guys, and I'll probably talk. And I just finished a podcast that'll be out on the Patreon channel in a few weeks about, or it already has been out. And it was with Matt Dowd and Ron Kleiss and Lauren James. But Matt was representing people in the brass market. And I mean, Matt, that whole story, he started his company like 3.5 years ago, and now he's got 8 employees, and he's doubled the size, and he does it full time. It's crazy. And his is refurbished brass, you know. And now here
that's crazy.
Yeah, and now you're pointing out that, you know, Division Point is bringing in brand new stuff. And man, I'll bet this stuff is just beyond. This will be like jewelry, this stuff, because now when you get it used to be brass locomotives in the 80s and, you know, the 70s and 80s, you'd get them, but they didn't really run that well. And now to get them nowadays, I bet you these things just run like Swiss watches.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Being Swiss, that means something to me. So I hope so. Yeah, but I totally agree to you. It took me a little bit more time, but you made the point here. So it is something that there is a demand out there, and people are asking for it. You just have to find the right people, and also you have to offer the right model. So, for example, the Norfolk Southern AC has never been done in brass before. So there were the SD70 M-2s, but no ACs. And one of my biggest hopes or dream units was an NS SD70 AC, and now they are offering it, and I think that's fantastic. And also what I want to mention, because it occurred to me a couple of times that when I talk to someone, let it be on Facebook or even here in Switzerland, when I had a talk to someone about a brass model or a brass offering, or for example, about the Division Point ACs, some people started arguing with me. Well, why is it better looking than a plastic Genesis model? And I was sitting there thinking, it's not about better or not that good. It's both models are beautiful. My first AC, as a matter of fact, was an Authen Genesis, and it is a fantastic model. I don't want to get people arguing about one is better than the other, because it is not. It is just something that some sort of people like this one and other people like that one. There are people liking bananas and others like apples. And I think people should realize more that personally, for me, being a brass collector and a brass lover, I absolutely disagree with the fact that one is better than the other, because I love all sorts of modeling and all sorts of offers and companies. There are several different companies with beautiful models. We have the budget-friendly models, the highly detailed models. There is something out there for everybody. And I think we should get together a little bit more on that topic and not agree or fight or have an argument about which one is better, because the Division Point model is just something that I really wanted, and I was hoping for a brass ACE for years, and now they are offering it. I can't wait to have it here, but I'm still enjoying my friend's plastic models. It's not something that is better than the other. It's just something that we have in addition for the market and for the collectors.
Well, yeah, and part of that is, as the hobby expands and grows, not everybody can afford brass. So a lot of people who can't afford brass will start making the argument of, well, my plastic model's just as good. And it's not about that at all. It's, you know, I drive a Lexus. I like to drive Lexus because it's a really good car. And, you know, it's just what I like to drive. And sure, I could drive a Toyota Camry, which is also a really good car, but I prefer Lexus. And it's, you know, yeah, you're spending $20,000 or $25,000 more than you necessarily need to, but that's the car I particularly like to drive. And it's the same with brass versus plastic. It's not a case of, I mean, plastic models, you know, what you get from Rapido trains or scale trains or Intermountain or Athearn Genesis, these are all really quality pieces. But the difference with brass is you've just gone to a different level. It's a different kind of quality. That's all it is. It's just a different kind of quality. And
That's well said. Yes.
yeah, and I mean, some people prefer fancy watches. I wouldn't wear a watch to save my life because I got my time on my phone. But, some people prefer fancy watches. It's whatever you prefer to spend your money on. And if
That's a perfect example, Lionel, because Switzerland is well known for its watches, for its beautiful watches, and also there are some collector series that cost more than my car did, and that's cool. If you want one of these watches, feel free to buy it, enjoy it, love it, take some pictures, take it out for a bath or whatever. I absolutely respect that, and that's the only reason I started to talk about this, because it was something that I really wanted to mention, that I don't think that one is better than the other. It's just something that we have in addition. And for those who want it, it is there. And for those who don't want it, you don't have to buy it if you don't want it. And that's the point here. And, the funny thing is, I hear that argument before. One of the guys was telling me, you are absolutely crazy to pay this and that for a brass Norfolk Southern Chivo, because I had the chance to get one. And then I was like, yeah, that's true. But it means the world to me. I really was hoping to get that model. Now I have it. I'm happy with it. I enjoy to run it. I enjoy to unpack it, take some pictures. And that guy made a pre-order for 6 scale Transivos. So my point was that I don't need 30 of them, but the ones I have are brass and I enjoy them. And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
how we should love our hobby and do our hobby.
Well, exactly. I mean, I can see me buying one of these Division Point F units. I mean, holy mackerel. I can see me buying 2 of them, putting them, back to back on it just because they're beautiful.
Yeah, and then you could add some 44 tonners from Rapido trains and run them together.
Yeah, I know. It's like that's just part of the hobby. It's whatever you prefer, and certainly a lot of it has to do with your own personal ability to pay for something, but.
Of course.
But if you enjoy that particular thing, you may choose to not purchase something else so that you can buy that particular brass locomotive.
That's the point here. That's the exact point here. And also, if you're now part of my group on Facebook, you will see, if you scroll down, or even in the future, you will see dozens of models that I weather for customers. So I work for that money. I do something for that
Sure.
money. They don't just simply send it to me. I make a weathering, which sometimes takes hours. Sometimes it takes a little bit more, sometimes less. Then I send pictures to the customers, and then they decide if I have to redo something or not. And that's how I get the money together to pre-order one of these brass engines. It's not that I pre-order 30 of them just because I can, because I definitely cannot. That was in the old times when I worked for the railroad. Then I could buy more overland models. Now it's a little bit different, but still I work for that money. I do something for it, and that's how I spend it, and that's what I enjoy to do.
And you don't have to justify it. If that's what you choose to do, then that's fine. And there'll always be no matter what hobby, although the hobby's changing, right? Because in stamp collecting or coin collecting, those people are always trying to buy the best of the best. And in this particular hobby, because the hobby has rejuvenated and the hobby is growing, now Division Point sees an opportunity. It's like I said, Matt Dowd started his resourced rails, which is refurbished brass, 4 years ago. And now he's got doubled this. He's got like a 3,000 square foot space. He's got 8 guys working for him. He works there full time because the hobby is becoming alive again. The hobby, the energy in the hobby is changing dramatically.
Yes, I absolutely agree to that. And it's crazy what has happened to resourced rails within just a short amount of time. That's absolutely crazy.
It is. And I mean, the part of the beauty of the new world of this hobby, and this is a perfect example right now, is we've never met each other face to face, but after 2 conversations and talk and going back messages on the internet and Facebook, I could come to Switzerland and say, "Hey, let's go out to lunch or dinner," and we would have fun like as if we'd been living down the street from each other for a couple of years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yes.
Which is just, to me, I think is just one of the greatest things that this hobby has to offer is that camaraderie and knowing different people. I want to talk to you about this GT unit that you did. It's a what is it? A Jeep 40?
I think that is a Jeep 40. I'm not sure on that, but it should be a Jeep 40, I think.
Yeah. So somebody it says here somebody sent you 7 locomotives to weather.
Yes, so that is he was my first customer, as a matter of fact. That was roughly 5 years ago. I weathered a European locomotive, or maybe an American one. I'm not sure. I put it up on. So there is a local eBay in Switzerland. It's not eBay. It's just a platform to buy and sell stuff. And I posted there, and the guy made a bid for that model, and then he sent me an email and told me, hey, I have tons of models. If you are interested in weathering them, maybe we could meet up one day. And a couple of weeks later, he came by. He came by for a visit, and he brought, like, I think in the box there were like 30 to 40 models, freight cars, locomotives, all kind of stuff. Broadway, Arthur. There were some Rapido GMD ones, the first Rapido models I have ever seen myself. Beautiful models. Intermountain stuff, Arthur, and so everything. And then I started to weather the models step by step. And I always sent him pictures, and I still can't believe that he had the truth in my work, so that he just simply said, do whatever you want. I'm sure it will be fine. Let me know when you are finished. And then he went away. And that was like, he has models here in the thousands, because there were some pretty high-end locomotives. And he just came by, led the models here, and then he went away. And then half a year later, I was writing him an email, sending pictures, and he was like, yeah, that looks fantastic. Okay, let me know what it costs. And that was absolutely a crazy experience. I could have never imagined that it works that way. And he was my first customer, and he still sends me some stuff from time to time. Sometimes I don't hear anything from him for a year, and then maybe he sends me 10 models or just 2. So yeah, he was my first customer, and I highly appreciate that he became that happening that is now.
So now, how did you learn to do weathering?
So my first attempts were right after when I bought Pelle Søborg's book.
Okay.
I think you know this gentleman, right?
Sure.
He's from Denmark.
Yep. And he's prolific. He's a prolific writer for Model Railroader.
Yes, exactly. And also, so in my eyes, Pelle is an absolute artist. That's what he is, in my eyes. My personal opinion, this guy is an absolute artist. And my first book that I bought from him was his third book, I think. And that was a book about weathering. And he weathered locomotives, also freight cars, and some loads. And that's how I got started with the whole topic of weathering. I bought my first airbrush, my first brushes, my first paints, and it ended up in a mess. And after a couple of failed attempts in weathering, I became a little bit better, step by step, slowly. And someday I decided to weather some stuff, put it online, and try to sell it. And that's how everything got started, actually.
And now... That's so cool. I think that, but see, that goes back to the same discussion we were having. A lot of people would say, "Oh, I'd never pay somebody to weather my locomotives. I'd do it myself." I think that's a waste of money. And for some people, it's not a waste of money, because some people are afraid to do that, and they're afraid to muck up their models, and they'd much rather pay you to paint the weather the model than do it themselves. And it's the same thing as buying brass locomotives. It's whatever you're willing to pay for.
Exactly. Or for me, it was the same decision. So, for example, I have customers that are sending models to me simply because of the fact that they spend their time to build their layout. So the time that they save by sending the stuff for weathering to me is time that they can use for their own layout, for example, for tree building, for lighting up the buildings and bench work and all that stuff. And for me, it was the same with the DCC custom work on my brass locomotives. On one hand, it is something that I am very afraid to do myself. Also, I don't have the knowledge and the equipment. And on the other hand, I was afraid to make a damage on a pretty expensive locomotive. So that's why I decided to offer weathering for customers, save up all that money, and send it to Bradley DCC, who makes all the DCC work on my brass models.
Okay.
And that's how one guy becomes an absolute pro in benchwork. The other is a DCC pro, and then there is the guy who makes the most beautiful trees, but he needs hours to do them. And then there is the all-rounder in the hobby as well. There are people that can do everything, and I think that's great. That's cool. So yes, that's how it works, and I think that's another cool aspect of the hobby, that there is a guy for everything.
Exactly.
So you have mini prints for custom special little figures, and then there you have Division Point for a beautiful brass locomotive, and then there is Otterwelly, who made the scrap gondolas that I pre-ordered. I have 5 or 6 of them. They're absolutely fantastic models. I love them. I need more, by the way.
Water Valley.
Otterwelly, yes.
Now, see that I didn't pick up right away.
So yeah, that's how the hobby works, and I think that's something cool. And then there is a gentleman in Hungary who makes beautiful trees. He makes them, so he offers handmade trees. They are absolutely stunning. They are fantastic, and I have several friends over here in Switzerland who are ordering trees because they say, on one hand, they can save time, and on the other, they are not afraid to do them, but they would have to buy leaves and stuffs and brushes and all that. So they simply say, you know what, if there is a guy offering these beautiful trees, I just simply pay him to do that and buy those trees, and that's fine for me.
Well, I was having a conversation with Chris Adams, a fireside chat with Chris Adams, and which I think may have already been published. I don't know. I got a bunch. I'm getting ahead now.
Is it the one that you recently uploaded? Because if so, then that is the one that I couldn't listen so far.
No. This is one I just recently recorded, so it'd probably be released towards the end of June or the middle of June.
Now, right? Okay.
This will probably be released after that, because somehow I got kind of ahead of myself, and which is actually a good thing, because then I can have a much more relaxed approach to the whole thing. So who's the farthest away? What's the customer that's farthest away so far for your weathering?
That is a gentleman from Germany, actually. His name is Martin, and he's from Germany, and he has sent me several different O-scale models. And yes, he found me through Trainmaster, the shop in Switzerland that we talked about in the first podcast, if you remember. The shop is run by Werner Mayer, and so the gentleman from Germany approached him and asked him, do you know anyone that maybe is offering some weathering or could weather up some of my stuff? And then he remembered some of my posts, again, the magic of the interwebs. And then he sent my email address to the gentleman in Germany, and that's how he asked me to do some of the stuff.
That's very cool. So most of your customers are from Switzerland, but now you have a customer in Germany.
Yes, that's right.
That's very cool. And you're going to get customers. It'll be interesting to see if you ever end up getting a customer from North America.
Well, I think that's just a little bit too far away regarding all the costs in shipping.
You never know, though. Somebody might, I think weathering is a weathering art. You're weathering artist. Now, I've never said this on the podcast. Weathering is is a very much of an artistic art form. And I can see how some people would prefer one person's weathering over another person's weathering. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility as the years go by that somebody might see your weathering and go, oh man, that's exactly what I want. I don't care that he's in Switzerland. That's exactly the way I want my stuff done.
Well, that would be cool for sure.
That would be cool. And
Lionel, I just noticed that I closed the door and my girlfriend is not able to come in the house. Would you apologize me just for 5 seconds so I can take out the key of the lock?
Yeah, I would do that if I was you.
Perfect. I will be back. Just 10 seconds. I will be back.
He locked his girlfriend out of the house. That's not good.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right, I am back. I hope you had some elevator music in the meantime.
Yeah, is she mad at you?
I hope not. We will see later.
Yeah, you're going to find out the hard way.
Yes. If I have to sleep on the couch, then I think that was a mistake.
um, uh, so you're talking about you made more money as a locomotive engineer. Now, when you're finished your training to be a police officer, will your salary it's not that it's any of my business. It's none of my business. But I'm assuming that you must have already taken into account that at the end of training, the salary for a full-time police officer is somewhat equal to being a locomotive engineer?
It is not, as a matter of fact. There is quite a gap in between the two, but it depends on the rank that you have. So, for example, if I become a sergeant after, I don't know, maybe 4 or 6 or 7 years, I don't know that by now, then the salary is getting a little bit closer to what I've had when I worked for the railroad. But the standard payment as a police officer, so there is quite a gap compared to the railroad. But money was not the reason that I decided to do this. It was definitely my dedication to this new job and what I really dreamed about to do one day, and that's why I made this change in my life.
I know, and that's something. I mean, we're getting off topic but this is what the podcast is about. Like, I think you're going to make a fine police officer because I think the majority of police officers, the high majority, are guys that really just want to do a good job. Yeah, there's bad apples in every corner of life. But I think that the majority of police officers are just like you, that are people that want to do a good job and really care about the job and care about the people.
Yeah, I think on one hand that was my biggest hope, but at the same time, now that I work there, it is my experience that the people there really want to give their best and to help the people out there. And that's what I have seen so far, and I think that's worth working for it.
Yeah, so just remember, when you pull me over for speeding, just try to keep that in mind, will you?
Yeah, I will.
when I'm zipping down, let's see, when I'm zipping down the Highway 10 there, going towards Malters, well
I know that.
well over the speed limit there. Just kind of remember that.
Well, I can't promise anything because what's interesting? That just crossed my mind a couple of weeks ago. So in the US, there is always this talk about the one-man crew over the two-man crew for the railroads. While in Switzerland, trains are always run with a one-man crew. So yes, sometimes you have the conductor on a passenger train, but he's there for the passengers. But in the locomotive, in the engine itself, there is always a one-man crew. While at the same time in Switzerland, police usually never works alone. So we are always in a team of 2. Which is funny because in the US, I think there are quite some differences. So in at the railroad, you still have the 2-person crews, the 2-man crews. However, I have noticed that a lot of police units have 1-man crews in their vehicle, which is quite interesting, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely, it's interesting. Yeah. And me personally, I can't see. I think it should always be 2-man crews as a police officer because just for safety's sake.
I couldn't imagine working alone.
No, and yet in my place in Florida, pretty much every guy is in the car by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I noticed when I was in the US. However, on the other hand, I think there is a pretty positive aspect at the same time. So, for example, if you are chasing someone or you have to go somewhere, if you have 1-man crews, then you have twice the amount of vehicles and area that you can scan.
That's true.
So that's a positive aspect on the other hand, I think. Which sometimes would be great in Switzerland. So, for example, if we have to go somewhere or to close down roads, then we are always 2-person in 1 vehicle. So that means 50% less area that we can scan or secure compared to a 1-man crew when everybody comes with their interceptors. Also, they are way faster because we are using Mercedes and they are using interceptors and chargers.
Yeah. I love this. I love this fact that you're doing this weathering, and you got that. So that's what I was going to ask you. This BC Rail one here. So how much would you charge to do this? I mean, we might as well get you some business if we can, because I know there are other people in Europe that listen to the podcast, and I'm fascinated. I'm guarantee you someday, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years, it might take 10 years. I guarantee you someday somebody from North America will ask you to weather something for them.
Well, that would be an absolute honor. So the funny thing is, I think you're familiar with the Down and Dirty Weathering contest, right? So I participated in the last one, which was 2.5, 3 years ago. And I signed up with a locomotive and the freight car for the contest. And the locomotive that I have weathered was an NS-9, an overland model that I weathered up using mostly oil paints and washes and oils, washes, and powders. And I was the lucky winner of that contest with my locomotive. And there was a guy, when they announced the winner, there was a guy in the chat who made a little note there, Robin, put it up on eBay and sell it to the US. So that was pretty funny at the time. But of course, the locomotive means a lot to me, so I'm going to keep it, I think. But yeah, maybe one day I will be able to weather up something for somewhere out there in the US. I already thought about, so Tim Garland was in Europe last year. And unfortunately, we were not able to meet up, but hopefully this or the next year, we will consider that. And that would be absolutely fantastic. And I will definitely do something that he can take with him to the US. I'm not sure by now what it could be, but maybe a model of some sort or something like that.
Tim Garland, I know that name. What's that? Who's that?
That is the gentleman from the YouTube channel Seaboard Central.
Oh, yeah, right,
absolutely
right. Yeah.
Amazing NS layout. And he's a locomotive engineer for Norfolk Southern.
That's right. We've had him on the podcast a couple of times.
Yes, you had. And he is one of my absolute favorite modelers out there. And he's an absolute fantastic guy. We talk from time to time on Messenger, and I always leave some comments on his YouTube videos. He's doing great work. And I learned that he helped me a lot with my proto throttle. I had some questions there. And his modeling is just fantastic. And also the fact that he's a Norfolk Southern locomotive engineer, that's absolutely cool. I learned a lot from him. And he's an absolutely cool guy. And I really hope to meet him in person one day, maybe here in Switzerland, and we could do some switching together. That would be great.
Well, I'm sure you will. You will. Eventually you will. I mean, again, it's the same thing. You could travel to there, and because you guys have had so much interaction together already, it'd be like you're old friends. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of this. That's why this hobby is going to absolutely explode, because people are going to become friends from all over the world. And when you travel, it's like we're having Tom Stock again, and 40 or 50 people are going to come, and we're going to hang out for 3 or 4 days, and ride an RDC and have Jerry Britton's cheese ball run, and it's just a fun thing to do, and it's nothing more than because I sit here talking and making smart ass remarks.
Yeah, that's so cool. I agree to that, and distance is no longer a problem here. So that's also another neat aspect of the hobby, and especially of the possibilities of the interwebs. That distance is not a problem anymore, because we have Teams, we have Skype, we have Messenger, and there is a little fun fact there, Lionel. So last year, some of my modeling friends here were in the US at some sort of convention or railroad switching operation. I have no idea where it occurred and where they were, but one of the guys sent me a picture of a huge pack of cheese balls, because he knew that I was listening to the podcast a lot, and that you guys regularly talk about cheese balls, and that was absolutely funny.
I think next year we're going to hand out cheese balls now there's something you need to do sometime in your life, is you and your girl, you can do it as you tell your girlfriend you want to take a trip to the eastern side of the States, but go to the Springfield show. You'll absolutely love it.
That is an actual plan for me. I just don't know when, if it will be next year or the year after that, but I already talked also to my girlfriend and to some guys in the US about that I thought about maybe some sort of a railroad journey, maybe for myself, and then travel to somewhere else with my girlfriend together. But I already thought about to make a little railroad trip to the US. For example, I already asked Josh from NS Modeler 24 if maybe one day he would allow me to visit his layout, and he was immediately like, yeah, sure, just let me know when, and then we will do a little operation, and maybe I could visit Tim Garland. I don't know, that would be absolutely fantastic. And the Springfield show is pretty on top of my list.
And I know a guy named Dave Abley's. I probably could get you in to see his layout too.
That would be fantastic. All the time when I listen to these guys, when I'm in the layout room, 99% I am listening to podcasts. And usually, of course, it's the AML. And whenever I hear about a layout or a guy that is building another layout, I'm always like, gosh, if I would live in the US, I would spend all my vacation and all my money for fuel on visiting all these fantastic layouts that are out there.
I know, eh? I mean, people have no idea how big this hobby is going to get, because we now have the ability to connect with each other. You and I are a classic example. We would never have known each other had it not been for the podcast and it had not been for the... When you hear this, it sounds like we're sitting side by side in the same room.
That's right.
And it's fantastic. So now you're avoiding the question. How much did it cost for this to weather this BC Rail locomotive?
Let me check. So the cost is always depending on the model and on the technique that I am using, but it's usually somewhere between 60 to 120 francs.
Okay. And how much is a franc in, say, US dollars?
It comes close to, I think it's about 10% less in US dollars than in Swiss francs. So I think $100 is 90 francs.
Okay. All right.
So it always varies depending on the project, really. So there is not like, I do a locomotive for this and that. And sometimes, it's also, I did this BC Rail locomotive was a model that I did for a friend of mine. And, I have another guy in our modeler group that does some 3D printing. So sometimes I just weather up a locomotive for him, and then he made a 3D printed proto throttle holder for my layout. And then he was like, well, you could weather up this locomotive and I can print you out this and that. And that's how it works sometimes.
That's, I know that's the coolest thing about this hobby now. It's like you got a fella, now you have a friend that does 3D printing. I was talking to Chris Adams on a fireside chat, and I said to him, we got talking about what we like to do and don't like to do, because we were looking at pictures of a decoder he installed, and I said, I hate installing decoders. I would just pay somebody to do it. And then he was saying he kind of likes every aspect of the hobby, and I thought, well, you know what? Other than installing decoders, I pretty much like every aspect of the hobby. I just don't have the patience or the desire to install a decoder or learn how to do it. Whereas everything else,
yeah, I got you.
Whereas everything else seems pretty straightforward to me. And my weathering, like I would never pay somebody to do weathering, because while my weathering is very basic, it's usually just, I use some Bragdon Industry powders, and then I overspray. Like usually I overspray the locomotive with, a very fine mist of grimy black. And then I'll use Bragdon powders on the trucks and the couplers and stuff like that. And they look weathered. It looks weathered enough to pass, but it's not the kind of weathering you do, but it's good enough,
Yeah, I totally understand. And I mean, I absolutely respect and understand also the people that say, I would never, ever paint something on my $200 model. And I absolutely can respect that. If you don't want it, then that's fine. For me personally, on my own layout, I would never run a plastic shiny locomotive. So for me personally, a layer of dull coat would be the absolutely minimum. But I never judge on the layout or the model of someone else. And as the mod father, Ralph Franzetti, he said himself, so a layer of dull coat would be the minimum. But I personally also totally understand if guys say, I would never weather this and that, and that's fine for me. I have a good friend he is one of the guys that lives 30 minutes from here, Martin. He has that cool East Coast Los Angeles terminal layout, and he once told me that he has no plans to weather up his overland models. He has a huge overland collection, beautiful models. And he told me, I make all this DCC work and the LEDs. However, I don't think I will ever weather them. And I absolutely respect and understand that. That's totally fine.
We were interviewing too another fella, John Caffarelli. And he was He's friends with Cam Neely, and we've been interviewing both of those guys. And turns out John's got weathering too. Now he has a video channel that's right. Have you done any? Do you have a YouTube channel where you show people how you do your weathering, or no?
I do have. I have a group on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. However, I should mention that so my YouTube videos are not of high quality. You know, I have this shaky mobile phone. I did not invest in camera equipment so far, so I have to really make that clear. So if you want to have high definition, steady quality and all that, then you better not checking out my YouTube channel. I did the YouTube channel only for the purpose to be able to sign up for the Down and Dirty Weathering contest, and that's the 2 weathering videos that I did there. Is one for the freight car and one for the locomotive. But again, the quality isn't that high, and I understand that people prefer high quality YouTube channels because there are a lot of them out there.
Well, the cool thing about John, and he doesn't do that many videos, but he's done some weathering videos, and he does weathering for people. It's quite popular, I think, that people don't want to do weathering and they send their stuff to somebody else. Again, back to our discussion about people will pay for what they want to pay for. I personally would never pay for it to have somebody weather a locomotive or a car because I enjoy doing it. That doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't do it. But anyways, yes, you should check it out. It's the Union Pacific Cascade Division in HO scale, and there's a couple of pretty cool weathering videos. And then he got me onto a guy called Panzermeister 36, who I got to interview on the podcast. And he's
I know both of them actually. I am already a member of this, a follower of this YouTube channel, the Cascade Subdivision.
There you go. See, exactly. Holy mackerel!
That's pretty cool. And also, Panzermeister is a well-known weathering guy in the community. He does amazing work, and I would love to listen to the interview which you will do with him if you can reach out to him. That would be cool.
Yeah. The problem with I should probably quit the podcast altogether because there's like 1 million people to interview.
Yeah, and there are more and more coming. So
I know, and there's more and more coming.
Interviewing, there is another guy. I heard about this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Guy. And then now you're
totally escalating.
Yeah, now talking to you, I'm thinking, man, I got to talk to this division point guy because bringing in brass diesel locomotives is like, that's huge in the hobby. That's huge news. That's like something that you should be talking to him about because, wow. Like I just kind of...
I agree to that. I will let Dennis know that you would be interested in the interview. That would be cool. And also Arthur Bradley from Bradley DCC. I mean, I have no idea how he started his business, but I would love to hear that story for sure.
Yeah, that's another guy I've talked about to myself. I have a list of like, I think it's over 20,000 people now.
I could agree to that.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, and the thing of it is, it's very similar to what happened to us. We only decided to do this podcast 2 days ago or 3 days ago because you sent me a picture and I went, "Well, that's cool," and blah blah blah. And I said, "Hey, we should be on the podcast again." And then we went, "Okay," blah blah blah, back and forth. And 2 days later, we're on. And it's like
exactly.
It's that easy to do.
It is, and I think that's a huge benefit for the hobby because it is so interesting also for me to listen to all these different guys and find out when Scooter will finish that building he is doing.
Oh yeah, Scooter. Well, now he's now he's on vacation.
And oh God.
Yeah, I know. It's just like,
that's rude.
Yeah, that's right. That's rude. He shouldn't have gone on vacation. All right,
I'm learning all these phrases from you guys.
I know that's his. You know what? Now there's a T-shirt I need to make before Tomstock. I need to make an AML T-shirt that says AML Nation, and underneath "That's rude," and only make it for him.
That would be cool. I think he would love that shirt. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's another idea. That's your shirt. Oh my God, this. And it was all started because I'm thinking, I wonder what doing a podcast would be like. And I love the sound of my own voice. But in today's world,
because for me it's always a little bit creepy to hear myself on radio or podcast or something like that, or in videos.
Then you ought to try listening. You ought to try being me and listening to me. It's really creepy. All right, we're going to
be a funny world which you live in.
Yeah, it's okay. We're going to stop now because I'm going to get Bruce or Kelly or the professor or somebody to help me with the introduction and the outro, and this will be on the free channel because it's really interesting. It should be on the Patreon channel because it's really interesting, But we'll put it on the free channel this time, and maybe we'll put you on Patreon next time.
Pretty cool. I think my friends will enjoy it, and maybe I can motivate them to join the AML
There you
Patreon.
go. And if you want to get all the T-shirts that you can get, you got to join. You got to up your game to the next level, the T-shirt level. You got to go to the T-shirt.
Now I
level.
will definitely have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're going to go from this segment to the next segment. Do you know what it is you have to do to go from one segment to another?
Subway chimes, go.
Well, what did you think of that one?
That was great. It's always interesting. It shows you what a small world this is, really. You were talking to a guy who lives in Switzerland, a beautiful country with, and it's wild. It's wild who AML has reached out and touched and included in the nationhood.
That's was the thing when I was talking to him when we decided to do the interview. It just kind of blew my socks off. I talk about it all the time. That Robin and I, like the same as you, we've conversed back and forth on Facebook Messenger. And that one time, this is the second time on the podcast, and his English is really good. He basically taught himself English by listening. And I'm just like, the whole time I'm talking to him, I'm thinking, I'm talking to a guy from Switzerland sitting in my house.
We've got a guy from Switzerland to one of the AML barbecues one year.
That's right, Nick Carlson. That's right, exactly. He's a trainer on a hockey team. Or at least he was last time I was talking to him. So anyways, it was a fun interview talking to Robin about all the stuff he's doing, his weathering, he's just so enthusiastic about the hobby, which leads to my never-ending quest of trying to understand what it is about this hobby that drags people in.
What is it, when you think about what is it about any hobby that drags people in?
I don't know.
What is it about the guys who build military models and stuff like that? Like what grabs them and gets them on a lifelong passion? Guys who collect coins, guys who collect stamps, people who watch birds. What grabs them in and keeps them involved? It's an interesting. Like, why do people get interested in hobbies that they're interested in?
Yeah, and everybody needs a hobby. It keeps you young.
Absolutely, you need something to keep going.
Something to be interested in, something to get you out of bed in the morning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyways, I know, but somehow model railroading fascinates me by the fact that the people that are in it, like I said 1,000 times, like once you're in, you can't get out.
No, that's it.
Like I'm sitting here in my little studio and I'm looking out and, there's some HO scale trucks. There's a O scale boxcar. There's, and you buy stuff that you don't need. I can look at my 2 Rapido RS18Us that I bought off of Otter Valley. And they're Rapido trains.
You are fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's L, if it's HO, the fast track is Rapido.
They're beautiful. The models they produce now, it's like, oh my God.
The stuff that comes on. I remember when you and I were getting back starting in the hobby back in the 70s and late 60s. Like, you got one of those old Athearn Blue Box F units with the super gearing system in it. You thought you were the cat's ass, that big heavy weights and gears and all that stuff. And, but you look at those models, which we thought were great in the days. You look at them now and go, really? But they are what they are. There's still lots of them out there running the rails.
Yeah, well, and look at Matt Dowd of Resourced Rails. I mean, he's got a whole business now of refurbished brass, and his business is flourishing. I mean, he started it, I think in 2020 or 2021, and now the thing is just going great guns. There's like
life is good.
Yeah, brass resourcedrails.com. If you're interested in any brass at all, and he's got all kinds of cool stuff.
They got all sorts of neat stuff on. I've looked at that site before and go, I always thought about getting one of those, but I don't need it.
Yeah, which is of course That has never. Look at it. Like he's got an
How
old.
much? How much? Oh, they take PayPal too?
Yeah, exactly. So then you're not really paying for it.
Yeah, that's right.
If you put it on your credit card, you're not really paying for it.
No.
Like he's got O-scale C&O caboose, Chesapeake and Ohio, $524.
For an O-scale.
O-scale. Beautiful
Wow,
model. Just an absolutely gorgeous.
For O-scale.
Brass models are spectacular.
Yeah.
They're just the detail on them. And that's why we had a great discussion with Robin about what is it about brass as opposed to plastic. And he says, well, some of the plastic stuff is great, but somehow the detail on brass models is... And I mean, these models are basically all hand built.
Yeah.
When you buy a brass model, you're buying a model that somebody handcrafted, or maybe 2 or 3 people had their hands on it, and it's handcrafted models.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And whereas now,
you look at some of the steam locomotives of brass. Like there's a lot of intricate.
Oh my God,
workmanship going in to build a steam locomotive. Holy moly!
They're like Swiss watches, really.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm looking at this C&O Chesapeake and Ohio O-scale caboose, and I'm thinking that's beautiful. I should buy it. I got no use for it. I got no use for it.
It looked good sitting on your shelf.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Can you give out our email address?
Yes, our email address. Please send us emails. We'd like to read your emails. We try to read all of them, and some of them we'll get to on viewer mail. Not sure when, but we'll get to them. Send us an email to modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers, the 1 L like llama, not 2 L's like llama.
And we were actually catching up, and now we've gotten the John Doring interview from last week. We've had quite a mix of emails from them. Some agreeing, some disagreeing.
Well, that's good. That healthy discussion is good, and let people get an idea what they're thinking, and maybe they get some ideas, and away we go.
There's not much mention in these emails of Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
Yeah, we had one fella, Derek, who he's 32. He wrote a very long, very well written, very good email about what he didn't like about the NMRA. And then we had another email from another fella disagreeing with me about my point about divisions. He loved the NMRA. So, I mean, there's all kinds of people. It's good that people respond. And if you like this particular podcast, this is on the free channel, and you'd like to have more podcasting, if you join our Patreon channel, then on every Tuesday, you get twice as much podcasting every week.
That's hard to believe. What a bargain.
Yeah, and if you sign up to the T-shirt level, which John, I believe, let me get the name right. We just had somebody sign up to it today, or increase. Let's see, John Myers. John Myers increased his from the $5 level to the T-shirt level. And he has now entered himself in Hey Dude, when do I get my shirt?
Contest sweeping the globe.
Yeah, Hey Dude, where's my shirt? So yeah, if you like this and you want to have twice as much podcasting every week, you just sign up to our Patreon channel.
And how do they get to our Patreon channel?
They go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and boom, there's a link right there to get onto the Patreon channel. And if you miss the email address, there, if you scroll down a little bit,
somebody wasn't paying attention during my attempt. Oh, yeah, it's disappointing.
It is, but as a backup, if you go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and scroll down just a little bit, there's a picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state. And all you got to do is click on that picture, and your email address is filled in.
There you go.
Then all you got
there's two ways to do it.
All you got to do is fill in your text. And we love emails. We love email.
We absolutely love emails.
Mick Shea.
Especially ones we get on occasion from Svetlana or whatever his name is.
Mick Shea wrote a very nice thank you email to Jason Schron of Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Because Mick won the... They gave us a locomotive to give away at Tom Stock, and Mick won it.
What did they donate for Tom stuff?
They gave me a choice. I'm
Yes.
thinking it was the RS. I think I chose the RS-18.
The RS-18, that's a nice unit.
I know. I think that's the one I chose. Anyways, I didn't win it, so then I stopped. I lost interest.
You lost interest when your name was called. All right, somebody won. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
But it was me. Good. Congratulations, Mick.
Yeah, way to go, Mick. All right, and that's it. And I had, Bruce, have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
Sometimes I do not have a T-shirt with a hot dog, and I suppose I should get a T-shirt with a hot dog, but I have no idea how to do that.
Well, if you just go to Midwest Model Railroad and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com, that's it. And scroll across the navigation bar to Other. In the drop-down menu, you see AML Shop, and boom, you're in a wonderland of AML merchandise: hats, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, and in there you'll find a T-shirt.
T-shirts with hot dogs on it?
In there you'll find a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
Wow. What could be easier than to go to MidwestModelRR.com and get a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
And that's it. And I did remember to have Robin fill in, do the very last part. So that's it. We're done. I'm turning off the mic now.
Okay.
Well, Robin, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
Happy rails to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of A Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
perfect. That was like awesome. What a great what a great podcast we did.
Yeah, it was a huge honor to participate again in your podcast. I really appreciate this possibility. It was a lot of fun, and thank you very much, Lionel. That was pretty cool.